I mean, a lot of my work over, you know, whatever, the past 10 years is very much focused on expressing what it means to be Indian American, to have an identity that's of two cultures, you know. I feel American, I feel Indian, I feel both, I don't feel either, you know, all at the same time. So it's important for me to express that in the music, because Indian Americans are a relatively new part of the American cultural landscape, you know, and my generation is probably the biggest one so far that's really making a different cultural impact, you know. You know, the way Indian culture had been perceived in America for a long time was very exotic. It was very superficial. I mean, you have the 60s and 70s and everybody wanted to meditate and you do yoga, and you saw Hindu gods and Hindu symbols everywhere, you know, but in a very surface way, not in necessarily a very deep way. And so it's always been important to me to when I'm representing things that are Indian, I want to represent them with integrity and depth. I don't want to be exotic and superficial. I mean, if I did that, I would be selling my culture, my ancestry very cheaply, and you know, I don't want to do that. So, you know, and the other component when we're talking about music is in the same way I feel integrated and complex, you know, intertwined in a complex way between being American and being Indian. I want the music to represent that too. And you see a lot of situations, and it's not only unique to Indian ideas and Western ideas. You see many cultural collaborations where the people aren't really collaborating. You have two musicians from two different parts of the world. They're playing in the same room, but they're not playing together. You know what I mean? So it's been important for me to really find a way to create a unified sound where it has a singular focus. You know what I mean? It's not just a mix and match of the Indian guys doing the Indian stuff and the Western guys doing the Western stuff. It's really two people working together and reaching beyond maybe what their comfort zone to create something that's completely different and unique. Yeah, I never describe anything I do as being Indo-Jazz fusion because of that. Because Indo-Jazz fusion, it's not only a description, but it describes a point in the history of the music where, you know, there are always exceptions for sure, but a lot of the 60s and 70s stuff for me does not sound like a seamless collaboration. It sounds like, and I respect the idea of trying to reach across, you know, these big geographic boundaries and creating something different. But my perspective is different though, because I'm doing this because it's an expression of who I am. I'm not just a guy who's interested in Indian music, you know. I have this blood in my body, you know, so it's a different manifestation. Communication. I want this music to communicate to as many people as possible, to reach as many people as possible. I mean, I think that music in general is something that can really be very empowering and very educating and can unite humanity in a way that other art forms and languages cannot. So that's what I try to bring to my music, and I think that's what the greatest music has always done, regardless of whether it's jazz or classical or pop or rock or Balkan or whatever. You know, I think music has that power, and you know, it's the breath of life. It's the breath of humanity. Creators of music have to think about that when creating their music, and listeners of music have to be open to that as well. So it's an educative process for sure. Well, I'm not interested in playing anything. I mean, I'm more interested in being an individual, you know, and I think everybody that makes a difference in music, again, in jazz, in other types of music, anybody who pushes the music forward and really reaches an audience is always doing something new, is always doing something that no one else can imitate. You know, it's not important to me to be able to play. I mean, I've studied the tradition, there's no question of that, but I could spend the rest of my life trying to sound like Charlie Parker, but first of all, Charlie Parker wouldn't want that, I don't think, and that doesn't serve any purpose to me. I mean, I don't know what good that would do to anybody. I mean, I think it's important when you talk about Monk and you talk about Coltrane, I mean, these people were individuals, Johnny Griffin, Hank Mobley, these people all had their own sound, and yeah, I mean, you have a lot of great students out there who can play really well, but the number of people who have an individual style and an individual message and voice is still very small. And I mean, I think it's amazing when you can recognize somebody in a few notes. I mean, that's when you know that that person has really done something different. And it doesn't matter whether you even like them or not. The fact that you can recognize them is very important. And I think, I mean, the reaction I get from people is very much the same. I mean, I have a very unique sound and a very unique approach, and you know, and I've always been, I guess, I've always held that as an important component of this music. And my very first teacher always emphasized that you should be very good at what you do, but you should also be yourself.